Good morning. Welcome to today's Safety Connection, Navigating Health and Safety in the Agricultural Sector. A note that this meeting will be recorded and available at a future date. At the end of the session, we will have an opportunity for questions, and at that time, the recording will stop. And if you wish to join us through chat, or even through audio and video, we will welcome you to do so without being recorded. My name is Kristen Hoffman. I'm a consultant with Workplace Safety and Prevention Services, and I am joined today by a coworker and friend, Sean Chadwick, an account representative within our small business area of WSPS. We acknowledge that many of the operations within the agricultural sector are small or often do operate as small businesses where the owner wears many hats and roles. And so we have found the value in sharing not only our agricultural resources, but also our small business resources with this sector. Health and safety responsibilities can be overwhelming, and finding resources can be challenging. Sean and I will share insights on navigating health and safety in the agricultural sector with focus on some of our favorites, as well as those who have shared with us from the sector the resources that are most supportive and valuable for the agricultural operations. To begin, and to better understand who is participating in our events, including Safety Connections, as well as to ensure that WSPS is providing accessible information and training for all in Ontario, we invite you to complete a short survey. This survey begins with the function number that you see on the screen, and then a few questions, very general information, to collect and share with our funder, the Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development. Your resources and responses will be kept secure and anonymous, and the ministry will not receive any of your personal information. WSPS will be using this information in aggregate form prior to submitting that summary to the ministry. Of course, the completion of the survey is entirely optional, but we do appreciate your support once more to better understand the value and application of our events within the province. To access the survey, either scan or take a photo of the QR code that you see on the screen, or click the link either on the screen or within the chat that you will see. This will open up a new browser window that will take you to this survey. WSPS, and in particular, Sean and I, thank you for taking the time, if you choose to do so, to complete the survey. And I will leave you with a minute or so to do so before we continue. As that browser window opens for you once more, it will begin with the function number, which is 228442, as you see on the screen. And the following few questions are about your operation and self, your role. Take just one more moment, and then you will be able to return to the link in the chat if you wish to complete the survey during or at the end of the session. Some other administration items to share with you. We recommend that you do use your computer audio with headphones, but conference through your phone is available if necessary. The details can be found in the email invitation that you would have received. Your camera and microphone will remain off for the session until the end of the recording, at which time we will activate those functions if you wish to join us in the conversation at that time. Throughout the session, if you wish to communicate, comment, and ask questions, please do utilize the chat, and we will attend to those items as best as possible during the session at the appropriate time, as well at the end of the session. Some of the engagement features that we do have within this platform, in addition to the chat, include reactions as well as polls. Well, we will not have specific polls used within this session. We will pose questions to you, and I will welcome you throughout to utilize the chat to share your responses to those questions. Accessibility features within this platform include live captions within the More menu, the 3 dots on the menu bar, as well full screen option. If you wish through those same options to select full screen, it will bump a few of the window panes around, but you will see a larger view of the presentation itself. The goals of our Safety Connection events such as this really are to learn, share, and discover what you value, operations within the agricultural sector, what is important to you and the sector, to connect virtually with peers, to facilitate some opportunity for networking and exchange of best practices, as well as to provide an opportunity for you to attend from your own space, wherever that may be. My first question for you, if you wish to participate through the chat, what type of operation are you joining us from? Perhaps it is livestock, greenhouse, perhaps floral or vegetable. Perhaps it is a vineyard, orchard, field crop of some type. Perhaps even it is a support for the agricultural sector, whether inspection, retail, or otherwise. Super. We have all 3 of the broad categories represented already within the chat. That's awesome. From support for the sector through to poultry, apple, greenhouse. Awesome. So please do for yourself, have a scroll through of the various types of operations that are within this session to prompt some of that networking and sharing as we go. Thank you so much. This session will provide us with the opportunity to explore some of the critical responsibilities for the various roles within the agricultural sector that are workplaces. And to fulfill those responsibilities, we will review some resources that are available. We will provide a review of checklists, postings, policies, procedures, templates, and more that are available to support you to fulfill those responsibilities, as well, for an even better purpose, to support prevention within your own operations. Please note that other resources beyond the few that we will have the opportunity to share in this session are available within WSPS, within the broader prevention system that we will describe together today, and also even through your commodity or grower associations. I have had the pleasure to work with a few of the larger and, to me, local operations, but also the associations within the area who represent, whether it be a type of fruit through to greenhouse operations. So please do refer to your commodity or grower associations as well. For those who may not be familiar with workplace safety and prevention services, and those who are, I hope to reinforce your experiences with WSPS. We are a not-for-profit organization with a commitment and specifically a mandate that has been set to protect operations and their workers in Ontario. Specifically, we serve and support the agricultural, manufacturing, and service sectors, which account for hundreds of thousands of individuals and operations in the province. We continuously work to understand the health and safety challenges that are present in the sectors that we serve. And I will step forward to say, in particular, for the agricultural sector. There are differences that are important to acknowledge and then develop resources to serve effectively and well. Some of those resources are the expertise, consulting, training, products, posters, videos, and a wide collection of resources. We have overall many years of experience in health and safety and in the sector. Some may recall our legacy organizations, and that is where I began my career with the Farm Safety Association years ago, and our mandate has not changed to continue to support the agricultural sector. In those words, I hope you feel that I am passionate about the sector, and if not yet, you may by the end of the session, and I am not alone. Sean, who will join me, as well as our entire complement of consultants and other staff members, are passionate about health and safety, and individuals who do support the agricultural sector do so with it in their heart, certainly. Our purpose truly is to ensure that every worker, regardless of sector or role, will return healthy and safe to their homes or where they choose to spend their time, as well as during the time at work, every single day. WSPS is one partner within what we refer to as the occupational health and safety system in the province. Ontario's system consists of 2 other and actually even a few more partners. WSPS's primary role is to support prevention, as mentioned, ensure every worker is healthy and safe every day. We then have the Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, whose primary role, and I'll explore that with you further, is enforcement, as well as the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, whose primary role is insurance. These partners work together for prevention of incidents that may have results of injuries, illnesses, fatalities, and support the goals of the strategy that exists within the system, much like our purpose to ensure that everyone is healthy and safe every day. As we discuss the role of the ministry a little further, the ministry, who does change their name every so often, and so I do typically shorten to the term ministry. For our purpose in this conversation, we are focused upon the Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, the acronym now MLITSD. Their responsibility is to oversee and coordinate the occupational health and safety system in Ontario. Essentially, the ministry creates and leads this strategy for prevention. The ministry is responsible to set, communicate, and enforce occupational health and safety requirements in the province, as well as employment standard requirements. And in doing so, often the ministry will prepare resources to support everyone, employers through to workers, to fulfill these requirements. The ministry also develops laws on insurance related to occupational health and safety that is then implemented by the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, sets standards for topics such as training, which may be through regulations, standards, or guidelines, measures and evaluates the effectiveness of the strategy, the return on the efforts that have been put into place in the province for prevention, and the overall impact of the work that all of the partners complete within the system. I welcome you, if not yet, to note the contact information for the ministry that you see on the screen. The Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, or WSIB as an acronym, is an independent agency of the ministry and entirely funded by workplaces in Ontario, such as your own. The WSIB administers Ontario's no-fault workplace insurance system for employers and their workers. The WSIB is one of the largest insurance organizations across the continent, covering millions of people and hundreds of thousands of workplaces in Ontario. Essentially, the WSIB provides wage loss benefits and medical coverage to those who require such. It is a no-fault collective liability insurance, and it does provide funding through the premiums paid by you, the employers in Ontario, to the WSIB. A portion is then routed through the ministry for prevention, which ultimately supports the work that health and safety associations such as WSPS perform. I welcome you, if not yet, to take the website for the WSIB on the screen. And out of the corner of my eye, I do just see a note about a challenge in viewing. And Emily is on it. Thank you, Emily. That other partner within the three that we noticed was WSPS as a representative of the health and safety associations in Ontario. We are one of 4 designated and funded health and safety associations in Ontario. And there are supplemental organizations as well that support health clinics and training. Specifically, the health and safety associations support employers through consulting, training, and resources. If I begin with infrastructure for a moment, infrastructure serves construction, electrical, utilities, natural gas, transportation, and some other sectors. Public services supports most often the broader public sector and Ontario's public sector itself, including government organizations, but also education as an example. Workplace Safety North, as its location suggests within its title, serves many of the industries that we find in Northern Ontario, but of course there are others throughout the rest of the province that Workplace Safety North engages with. These are any industries related to mining and forest products, as well as general businesses across the north. And then we have Workplace Safety and Prevention Services, as indicated, your designated health and safety association as an agricultural operation. Each of these associations are independent and not for-profit corporations that are governed by a board of directors. The staff within each of these associations provides frontline programs to employers on behalf of the ministry in some way. The ministry's strategy outlines the need for prevention. It then actions the health and safety associations to provide that consulting, training, and resources as service to accomplish prevention. All of us who are health and safety associations and their staff support that mandate to serve all workers through to employers in Ontario. And if not the designated health and safety association for you, there is one available, if not WSPS. And I welcome you to take the contact information for WSPS, although you likely have it if you found your way to this session. So As we continue through with some better understanding or reinforcement of your understanding of the prevention system and each of the roles that the partners play within the system in Ontario, we'll explore some more of each of those partners' portfolios. Enforcement by the ministry focuses upon legislation, including the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and any pertinent regulations to workplaces. The Occupational Health and Safety Act applies to all types of workplaces in Ontario. Agricultural or farming operations came under the Act on June 30th of 2006. It's been a little while, almost about the time of my career, to be honest with you. There are limitations within the Act outlined for various types of workplaces, including farming operations. For example, the Act does not apply to farming operations run by self-employed individuals without workers. If you are an owner-operator without workers, it is unlikely that the Act will apply. That said, if you engage with contract workers or temporary workers for a period of time, that will prompt the application of this legislation. The ministry has prepared guidelines that help to understand when and how the Act will apply to farming operations, and I will share those with you in just a while. Within the Act, general roles with corresponding rights and duties are outlined. These are minimum standards in Ontario. We must meet this standard for compliance, and then we encourage best practices above this minimum standard. We will find, as we continue this discussion, and no doubt you have already, that there is very minimal prescription for farming operations in Ontario in regulations. If we were to open the Green Book and move beyond the Act toward regulations, we will find there are very few pages with content that apply to farming operations. Do be mindful, that's a minimum. And of course, we will encourage higher than that minimum, which may mean that we do look to other resources then to understand what could or would be reasonable to implement within our workplaces. These are some of the key regulations and some that do have application to farming operations, perhaps permanently, and for others from time to time. Regulation 414 farming operations outlines what regulations beyond are applicable to farming operations, such as Regulation 297, Occupational Health and Safety Awareness and Training, Regulation 381, Noise, Regulation 420, Notices and Reports, which essentially is an update to a previous responsibility that states when and what we must communicate with the ministry. Regulation 559 for naloxone kits. And if on that farming operation we do engage in construction, demolition, or a rebuild or a new build on farming property, Regulation 213 for construction projects will likely apply to the scope of that build, renovation, or otherwise. And then, although outside of the scope of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, another regulation to note that is applicable for farming operations is Regulation 1101, First Aid Requirements. This is made under the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act and outlines for us what we need in the way of inventory for first aid supplies, location, as well as training for first aid attendants. We then have a few key guidelines for the sector to note. And once more, I welcome you to take these links as notes, and we will follow up with you with these resources as well. The first is the Guide to the Occupational Health and Safety Act for Farming Operations. As I mentioned, this will help you to navigate your way through if and when the legislation applies, and if it does apply, how to fulfill the requirements. Health and safety committees and representatives in farming outlines the requirements for health and safety representatives who represent workers, or joint health and safety committees if requirements for your operations. And finally, health and safety in farming operations. This title has changed over the years. Nonetheless, the content remains. Within these guidelines, we will find topics including tractors and other self-propelled farm equipment, general farm equipment, including implements and some of the machine safety to be mindful of with this equipment, large animal handling, personal protective equipment, which does indicate some of the exposures where personal protective equipment may be reasonable to use, slips, trips, and falls, considering falls on the same level, your walking or working surface, as well as falls from heights, which could be from the platform of equipment, a ladder, or perhaps we are on an additional story of a structure. In addition to machine safety in general, lockout as a topic, control of any hazardous energy that may be related to the machines or equipment that we have exposure to, hazardous atmospheres and confined spaces. This might be a bin that we fill during harvest. Recently, corn has been coming off in the few dry days around my home. It also includes spaces where we might have a release, such as a chemical when we are involved in a fermentation process within a space. And finally, occupational illness as the last of the guidelines within this resource that gives us some impression as to the exposures which may result in illnesses and how to recognize, assess, and effectively manage or control those exposures. Now, the Act requires employers take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for the protection of workers. I shared with you, as you likely know, that there is very little prescription in regulation for farming operations. What that will mean is, as an employer and supervisor, we may need to look to other resources to understand what is reasonable then to protect workers. If the regulation does not outline that you must apply lockout to your tractor when you are changing an attachment, that does not mean we simply do not control the hazardous energy. We may look to other references to understand what would be reasonable. And that might include the guideline for tractors as shared. It might include other regulations, like what could or would industry do if they were going to change the forks on a forklift truck? Do we draw some comparison to understand what we could and perhaps even should do with that tractor, changing that front end attachment on our farming operation? That becomes the beauty and challenge within this sector and within my role, truly. And I am sure Sean and others could attest to this. What to do to fulfill the requirements when it is not specifically stated within the Green Book. We look to resources that are available to understand. So consider what may be reasonable at your operation for the use of a tractor, whether changing those front-mounted attachments or otherwise. How did you decide that would be reasonable? Do you have confidence that if you continue to manage tractor operation in that way, you will prevent exposure to hazards and incidents as a result? And if we note a gap along those questions, perhaps consider those resources, guidelines, other regulations, and maybe even that discussion with commodity or grower association representatives, as well as consultants within WSPS. Within the Act, a few definitions that are valuable to note to then understand exactly what responsibilities and requirements have been set out for us include that of a worker. A worker is a person who performs work or supplies services, often for monetary compensation. However, there are instances where perhaps these individuals are a part of a work experience program. Imagine a co-op placement, whether in secondary or high school, or post-secondary or college or university programming. These individuals are considered to be workers. And the reason for update to that definition essentially was to ensure that not only do workers have duties to follow as co-op students, but also understand their rights available as co-op students. A supervisor is an individual with charge of a workplace, organize the process, or authority over a worker, control over people. And then the employer is the person who employs all of these others, who employs one or more workers or contracts for the service of one or more workers, which means that if for 10 months of the year, it is an owner-operator situation, and for 2 months, perhaps planting, harvest, or otherwise, we do bring on paid workers or maybe those co-op students, it is that period of time where the requirements will be prompted. Each of these roles contribute to what we describe as an internal responsibility system. The employer with the greatest authority or control, also the greatest level of responsibility in the workplace, followed by supervisors who have a critical responsibility to share information from the employer to workers and workers to the employer, and workers who have the expectation placed upon their role to comply with the requirements set by the employer and report if there is a challenge to comply or a new or different exposure has come about where there may be potential for loss. And then we have our health and safety representative, as well as Joint Health and Safety Committee. This role evaluates the internal responsibility system and will make recommendations where there are opportunities for improvement. That might be a straightforward recommendation of to roll up the cord that is across the walkway. It may be a little better insight to process, such as the reporting process or opportunity that we have in place in the workplace, physical conditions as well as process. The Act outlines in detail the duties established for each of these roles. And I will encourage you, if not yet, and then ongoing, do refer to these applicable sections of the legislation, especially for your roles. But if your roles are that of authority, that of the employer or supervisor, ensure that you do look to the roles who report to you as well. As mentioned, the employer has the greatest amount of responsibility within the workplace. And as you see here, some of those references are to ensure that the building structures, equipment, machines, tools, overall physical conditions, as well as processes within the workplace will not result in loss to your workers and even to your property. One of the points to call out specifically is the last on the slide here. That is to appoint competent individuals as supervisors and hold them accountable. Competent requires individuals to be qualified, have knowledge, training, and experience, be familiar with the rules, including this legislation that applies to the work, and have knowledge of where there could be loss. What are the actual or potential hazards? And the appropriate controls to manage those exposures. As noted, the employer must take every precaution reasonable, and it continues to state in the circumstances for the protection of workers. This is an ongoing hazard assessment to understand what exposures are present within the workplace that could result in loss, and what do we have in place to prevent that likelihood and even the severity of that result. Once more, where we may not have a specific set of instructions within the law as to what to do, we look beyond to then understand what may be reasonable. A supervisor holds that same responsibility. Every supervisor must be competent in their role so that they are able to support this reasonable precaution duty. And finally, our workers. Several duties within the role of workers that involve compliance to the standards that have been set, whether that is how to use a machine and/or the type of personal protective equipment to use in the workplace. Interesting that there are some prohibitions written for workers as well, what not to do. And this is reactive legislation, which means someone did, and perhaps even did lose an eye or otherwise, and so it becomes a rule within the Green Book. I'll ask you to keep that point in mind throughout as well, that this legislation, and for dramatic purpose, this enormous Green Book, is reactive. It has been written over time as a result of incidents that did have loss associated. And quite often, it's a high frequency and or severity of the loss for it to become letters within legislation of any type, including occupational health and safety. We have a few rights to note as well. Within Ontario, workers in any type of workplace have the right to know about hazards as well as the controls, the right to participate in the process of hazard management, as well that opportunity to become a health and safety representative or joint health and safety committee member, and the right to refuse work that is unsafe, which is described to some extent within the legislation. Within agricultural operations, there are requirements for joint health and safety committees and health and safety representatives. And I'll encourage you to draw your own attention to the space that is most reflective of the number of workers at your operation. Now, there are some limitations to navigate together. If we begin with a workplace with 1 to 5 workers, there is not a legal minimum requirement to have either a representative or committee. A workplace with 6 to 19 workers, generally that operation is required to have 1 worker health and safety representative. There are some additional requirements if designated substances are present within the workplace. Workers of 20 to 49, the workplace in some commodities would be required to have a joint health and safety committee. For those who shared the type of operation that you represent, important to note, if you are an operation with 20 to 49 workers that complete work related to beef, dairy, greenhouse, hog, poultry, there is a requirement to establish a joint health and safety committee. If we have 20 to 49 total workers, that committee must have 2 members, but there is not a requirement for certification training. If those commodity operations have 50 or more workers, there is a requirement for a committee with 4 members. At least 1 must represent management and complete certification training. And 1 of the worker members must complete certification training. Other operations such as orchards, vineyards, nurseries, and there are others who do not engage in work related to those other commodities and do not have an industrial application whatsoever, do not require the establishment of a committee. But you might decide it's reasonable. This is a good example where above that minimum in the law could make really good sense and be considered reasonable. Where we have mixed operations, we would love to engage in that discussion with you. I mentioned if there is any industrial application like a pack house. I think we saw an operation that indicated you also do packing, depending on whose product and such may have a difference in the general requirements for farming operations. So we welcome those conversations. Ultimately, the committee as well as representative have a role to identify hazards and make recommendations. They will submit those to the employer if a formal response is appropriate, but also continuously share information for that effort of prevention within the workplace. An important point to note for all roles within the workplace that has specific application for workers that an employer cannot reprise against, cannot discipline or terminate or threaten to punish a worker for acting in compliance with the legislation that is in place. This does not remove the opportunity for performance management that is reasonable. Separate topic. In the role of an employer, managing hazards is how we will demonstrate that we have taken every precaution reasonable. And there are some common examples of hazards within the agricultural sector, and I welcome you to share within the chat any of those that are most pertinent for your operations as I provide a short explanation here. Physical hazards. Consider examples such as temperature, the extreme cold to hot, vibration, radiation, and noise. We then have biological, musculoskeletal disorder, pains and strains, often involving the muscles and other soft tissues of the body. This is the most commonly claimed injury in Ontario. Agriculture is no different. Psychosocial hazards, these affect our physical, mental, emotional, and even social well-being. Chemical hazards, and then we have safety, which really catches the rest, if not yet. Slips, trips, and falls, exposure to hazardous energy fit within these slices of the pie. So I'll pause for just a moment and ask, what are examples of hazards within your workplaces? Is it noise? Is it mobile equipment and pedestrians? Is it working at heights? Perfect. Thanks for that note, Laurel, about mixed operation. Thanks, Frank. Noise, dust, animal handling, which prompts a bunch of different exposures. The animal itself could be a safety hazard to you. The releases from the animal, the dust, the dander, could be a hazard for you. Awesome. Chemical, working at height, exposure to perhaps moving parts or other hazardous energy, mechanical. Thank you so much for those examples. It is important once we recognize the hazards within our workplace that we manage those effectively, control the exposure to reduce, if not eliminate, the likelihood that our workers will have exposure. And if they will still have exposure, the controls then should reduce the likelihood of a severe incident. We use the process to recognize, assess, control, and evaluate to manage hazards. Recognition, just as you have shared, what is present within the workplace. We might consider feedback from workers, incidents, as well as experiences of other operations similar to ours. We then ask questions to understand the risk level through an assessment. Is it something we do every day? And if we have exposure without control, it is going to severely harm someone. We need to start there and then work our way to the lower risk. The controls are how we work our way. And there's a variety of different types of controls from elimination all the way through to personal protective equipment, decreasing in effectiveness as we move toward personal protective equipment or where we rely on workers to implement the controls. If we can design protection into the work, even better. It raises less question about who and how will comply to the controls that have been put into place. That last step of evaluation is so critical as well. Once we've put in a control, let's check back. Is it doing what we expected? Not creating any other hazards either. And I'll ask you to consider what examples you use to recognize hazards first. Some information opportunities might be review of safety data sheets, the rules that have been set by the province, records such as training records, reports such as feedback from workers. Ensure you have a wide scope of methods to gather information to understand what hazards do exist within the workplace. So then you can move toward those controls to ensure that you are effective. That last point I suggested as well, please do consider strategies to evaluate the effectiveness of those controls. You want to be sure you have return on the investment. If we have put a guard in place or facilitated training, let's do a double check. Did it hit the mark? And not create some other challenge along the way. To support you to manage hazards as well as further understanding of responsibilities and resources, I welcome you to visit our Agriculture and Horticulture Safety Center. We have a curated set of resources for the sector. And within the sector further, we have curated for some types of growers. More to come, but greenhouse as an example. And we have individuals with that passion as well as experience to support you. We could refer to them as Aggies, but I did not attend Guelph. So this is our agriculture team. We have over a century of years of experience in health and safety and the agricultural sector, dating back to our legacy, as I mentioned. This team includes account managers, consultants, partnerships with associations, as well as small business representatives. And I welcome you, if not yet. Please do get to know the member of our agriculture team that might be most local or have the best understanding of the type of operation that you have responsibility over. And with that, I will welcome Sean to take us into the next portion. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, thank you so much for that. So I'm going to piggyback off of some of the concepts today that have already been presented. We have a wonderful treasure trove of tools and resources that businesses can use inside of the workplace. We know at WSPS that you as business owners, farmers, etc., did not start a business or inherit the family farm to become a health and safety expert. We understand that. But what we have done is tried to make health and safety as simple as possible. So for many businesses in Ontario, especially when it comes to farms, relates to smaller businesses, businesses with under 99 employees. And some of the topics covered inside of our Small Business Center will help you build and facilitate that health and safety program inside of your business and foster that health and safety culture, not only to cut down on administrative time in your business, but also keep your employees and your business healthy and safe. So as you can see on the screen, the Small Business Center that we have created is separated into four distinct parts. If you'd like, you can scan the QR code that is on the screen right now, and that will take you to the Small Business Center. The first section is the safety roadmap. This is usually where we send people first. This is where businesses, depending on their size, can select resources based off of the number of employees that they have. As already mentioned in this safety connection, depending on the amount of employees that you have, may determine different requirements that you need. As well, we have a section for understanding health and safety inside of the workplace. We have an entire library of free resources. If you need something in the realm of health and safety, chances are we have a tool or a template that is already there for you that you can customize and pirate at your pleasure. You don't have to recreate the wheel, as we like to say at WSPS. There are resources available for you. Also, in that section, if you're looking for, well, what did other businesses do maybe in controlling this hazard? Or what are some guidelines for this type of a situation? Inside of our case studies, you'll find also articles and resources available for your review to talk more about at detail some of those pain points inside of your business. As well, there are business case studies and the case for good business sense and why health and safety can help your bottom line. We also have additional support section on our small business site where this introduces you to two things, and I'll go a little bit more into them later inside of our Safety Connect. The free small business advisory service, which provides up to 10 hours of free health and safety consulting services for businesses with under 20 employees. It's a really good opportunity that if you are not sure where to start, maybe, or if you'd like a second set of eyes on your program, or maybe looking around the farm or your business of what are maybe some things that I'm missing in my program, this is a really good opportunity to connect with a health and safety professional and have those services that, again, with under 20 employees at 10 hours. We also have the WSIB Health and Safety Excellence Program. One great thing with that is businesses with under 99 employees, small businesses, as defined by the WSIB, can receive up to 200% of their WSIB premiums back by implementing some of the things we've even talked about today in this Safety Connect. So if you'd like more information on that, we'd be happy to provide that to you, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later in our presentation. And then we have a what's new section. So as we know, sometimes not only does the Ministry of Labor change their name with the seasons, but also legislation does change as well. If there are significant changes to legislation, we put that into our what's new section. As well, significant tools and resources such as our health and safety handbook and our podcasts are located in this area for your convenience as well. So again, one of the first areas that you want to start on our small business page is that safety roadmap. I like to call this really a checkup on health and safety. Really what it is an internal audit of your health and safety program. If you do go inside of the health and safety checklist area, that safety roadmap will outline different areas that you need to cover inside of your health and safety system. I'm actually going to go back for a moment. So you'll see the first area there is the safety checklist. That safety checklist is that thermometer or health check of your safety system. It will bring you through various areas of your health and safety program to see if there's any gaps or areas for improvement. One thing I like to tell business owners is when you're going through this, it's a series of yes or no questions. Unless you have something signed, dated, and ready to give to me from the Ministry of Labor, it's a no. So this is a really good way to find out if you're documenting appropriately and have the ability to provide evidence should the need arise. Different areas covered are everything from duties and responsibilities, workplace hazards, first aid, training, and so on. Small businesses for agriculture do have those checklists available. There are some differences between small businesses, such as in the service sector or manufacturing, industrial, and agriculture. We do have specific resources available, which we'll discuss at the end of today's program, specific to agriculture as well. Again, these tools are to help you find those gaps inside of your system that you may not be aware of. Some of those areas may be duties and responsibilities. One of the areas that we touched on today was that internal responsibility system and who is responsible for what. Health and safety is a team sport, not an individual sport. Everybody has duties and responsibilities inside of the workplace. But what is vitally important is that people are trained and are knowledgeable of what those duties and responsibilities are. Inside of the duties and responsibilities section of this small business site, you'll find resources such as links to the 4-step and 5-step for workers and supervisors, and also other WSPS resources to make sure that your employees, supervisors, and you as a business owner know what those responsibilities are. Again, as you're going through that checklist, we'll go back here just one moment. When you are filling things out on that checklist, let's say, for example, that you find inside of the duties and responsibilities that, you know what, we're not actually training our supervisors. Every area on this checklist corresponds to the safety roadmap. And inside of all of these sections are tools and resources to fill the gaps. So not only are we finding opportunities for growth and improvement, but we are also providing the resources to close those gaps to you. So again, inside of those duties and responsibilities, you'll find even training templates that you can use to close those gaps inside of your business. Other things that you might look for inside of here are your health and safety policy. This is really the foundation of your entire health and safety program inside of your business, which most of you already know this. However, one thing inside of that small business center is we do have policy and program templates that you can use and customize for your business. They may not touch every area that you need inside of your business, but it's a really good template and foundation piece to start so that you don't have to start from ground zero. Another really helpful area of this business site is posting requirements. This is something that I get a lot of questions about from small businesses, regardless of their industry, is what do we actually need to post on our communication board? Inside of the posting requirements section on that checklist that we talked about in earlier slides, it will tell you what you need to fill those gaps. What do you need to post? Do I need the 1, 2, 3, 4 poster from the WSIB? Do I need the healthy and safe work starts here poster? Do I need a copy of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and so on? Not only does this highlight what you need, but it also has links and downloads to those different posters. So again, we're not just identifying a problem, we're also bringing a solution right to you so you don't have to go searching for it on your own. This is probably one of the more important things covered inside of the Small Business Center. In a recent study, up to 71% of Canadian workers reported that they had experienced some sort of violence or harassment inside of the workplace. This is still an area of improvement that we need across all sectors in Ontario. Many employers, however, don't necessarily understand what are my responsibilities and requirements when it comes to violence and harassment. This area of the small business page will tell you everything you need to know about violence and harassment inside of the workplace, definitions, legislation, and requirements as an employer, but it will also provide templates of things like investigation forms, questionnaires, audits, investigation forms and templates, reporting forms and templates, and policy templates that you can use to build a program inside of your workplace. We also have information related to your either health and safety representative or joint health and safety committee. We do provide training for both health and safety reps and the JHSC at Workplace Safety Prevention Services. As well, there are resources for things like workplace inspections, meeting minutes, and policies inside of the Small Business Center to help you build that program. We also have an area inside of there of workplace hazards. If there are hazards that you need help maybe controlling or looking at, or what are some effective ways, as Kristen was talking about earlier in today, of it's great that we found a problem, but how do we address this? This section will help you understand some more tools and resources that you can practically apply inside of your workplace, from training to different inspection forms and so on. One of the areas I want to highlight significantly inside of this Safety Connect is training and orientation. Something that I used to tell my supervisors when I worked in the private sector and on an agricultural firm was your normal might not be someone else's normal. And what is common sense to you might not be common sense to someone else. Training and orientation gets everyone on the same page inside of your organization and is a foundation piece to preventing injuries and illnesses inside of your workplace. In the training and orientation section, we have documents that will help you prove to the Ministry of Labor, number one, that you are providing training. There are templates for things like safety talks, sign-offs for orientation and different training that you might have, and links to basic training that every worker in Ontario must have, including the 4-step and 5-step for workers and supervisors. So here's a little example of a screenshot if you were to click on that in the Small Business Center. As I said, and it'll bring you through different resources, such as, like I already mentioned, the safety checks, the attendance record, orientation and general information, and also some good resources on, we do provide orientation, but are we providing everything that we need to inside of that orientation? So a really good place to start. And again, those links to e-courses as well. So again, this is kind of just, again, going through, if you were to click through those resources, we do have WSPS resources, but again, those links to the worker and supervisor 4-step and 5-step are available so that you don't have to go looking for them on your own. We also have a first aid section that will help you with things like first aid logs, documenting first aid reports. We also have templates for incident reports so that you have everything you need, that if there was an incident or an injury at your workplace, you know how to respond correctly and efficiently. Again, that injury reporting, we do have an incident report. I remember being in the private sector and finding out after the fact that WSPS had a template for this. This would have saved me a lot of time, money, and so please do use these resources. They're a great place to start for your health and safety program. Other resources inside of that small business page are return to work. If you're confused about where to start for return to work, like we've already mentioned, we're always here to help at WSPS. But again, there are resources to help you build that return to work system, and so that you can document exactly what is going on with each of your workers, that you are returning to full and safe working capabilities. Things like a return to work plan, modified work offer, etc., can all be found inside of this section. Now, we've covered a lot of different resources, but one of the things that we've developed as of late is something that would have saved me probably 2 to 3 months worth of work in the private sector. I'm not bitter about it. I'm very excited that we do have this now. If you scan that QR code, this will bring you to our health and safety handbook generator. This tool will help you create a health and safety handbook that you can use to onboard your employees that tells them all of your policies and procedures and some of the controls that you have in place for various hazards. This is a great way to document that you are implementing controls and effective training inside of your workplace. So if you go into the What's New section and click on the Health and Safety Handbook Generator, like I said, it is very simple and helps you to comply with sections of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. It is customizable to your sector and company size. It aids in creating an orientation program and is easy to produce and free to download. One of the things that I love about this is it creates a customized, free, downloadable PDF that you can save and use at your workplace, but also provide copies to your employees. If you were to go through with this process and click on that link that was on the previous slide, you would be brought to this page. On this page is a quick summary of what the handbook generator is. And if you can see down there at the bottom, you're going to click on Getting Started. Once you have clicked on the Getting Started, it will bring you into the Health and Safety Orientation Handbook Generator. I do recommend that you register with an account so that if while you are doing this, you have to go and attend to something, that your progress is not lost. You can continue as a guest, but again, I recommend that you register an account so that you can save your progress. If you were to continue through those, it would start to ask you various questions. Tell us a little bit about your workplace. Are you in service, manufacturing, industry, agriculture, etc.? And how many employees do you have? It will ask you various questions such as, do you have any isocyanates, any Ministry of Labor orders, tickets that you need to address, and various questions to help the AI tool generate a handbook that is customized to your business. Additional workplace items may include, where are some of your items at your farm or inside of your business, such as your eye wash station, your first aid station, your posting area for all of your health and safety communication. Once you fill in all of this information, the AI tool will collect that information and populate it into the handbook so that your employees are trained on exactly where things are located inside of your business, what your policies are inside of your business. And if you maybe don't have a policy, the AI tool can help you create one as well. Once you have gone through those sections of answering the questions to customize the tool, the AI tool will create a preview of the Health and Safety Handbook. When that is created, we encourage you to go through and review all of the information. Like we said, for our tools, they are a great starting place, but you may need to customize them to fit your specific business needs. Make sure that it is saying exactly what you want it to say and that it is applicable to your business as it stands, and make adjustments as needed. If you scroll to the bottom, one of the very nice features of this is that there is a sign off. Like I said at the beginning, if it's not documented, it didn't happen, according to the Ministry of Labor. So this is a great way to document that things are happening inside of your workplace, and you can prove that and provide that to the Ministry of Labor. When you have ensured that this is accurate and the information you want, you can click the download PDF and it will populate that for you. As you can see on the screen, with various resources that you have indicated that you need inside of that for your business needs. As mentioned, we have gone through a lot of resources and a lot of information today. If you need help, we are always here at WSPS, not only to connect with you if you have singular questions, but if you would like to have someone on site and you have less than 20 employees, we do have our small business advisory service where you can organize up to 10 hours of free health and safety consulting with a certified health and safety professional. Their insight and valuable expertise is indispensable in addressing workplace safety needs in many different applications. So again, I highly encourage you to use this. And it's great to always have a fresh set of eyes because what might be normal to us might not be normal to someone else. And again, those fresh set of eyes help to catch things that we might be missing. Some WSPS resources, again, that we do offer. We offer consulting if you need some help understanding maybe an area of legislation, how to control a hazard, joint health and safety committee training, etc. We are here to help you. We offer extensive training in various areas. And again, we are here to help. As mentioned, we do have Agrified resources for both agriculture and horticulture health and safety at our Agricultural Safety Center. And again, our safety roadmap is located on our small business site. So feel free to go through those after today's Safety Connect. Some checklists, again, if you need them for your agriculture specific needs, are available as well on the resource hub, and we will provide those checklists to you and links to you. So as mentioned with all of this, if you'd like more information, feel free to reach out to us. If it's our resources, consulting, or training, or if you'd like to learn how to get paid for what you already have to do under the WSIB Excellence Program, we are here to help for all of your health and safety needs. And with that, that wraps up our Safety Connect.